work plays such a major role in our lives. We build relationships at work. It gives us a sense of purpose. It's something that keeps us going. It pays for our bills and it puts food on the table. We also know that we spend a lot of time at work, probably the best chunk of our lives. And it's important also for mental health. In today's episode, we're going to look at the impact of work on mental health, how it affects us, how it can affect us really positively, and how it can have a detrimental effect, and the role that leaders and organizations have in this really, really important topic. With me, I have two psychologists, Charlene, who is a clinical psychologist and also the director of PATS Clinic, the largest clinic that we have locally, and Joshua, who is part of the PsyPotential team and also a psychologist and specializes a lot in leadership development and supporting leaders and training leaders to lead in a way that safeguards and keeps well-being as a priority. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to our episode of In Good Company. Charlene, I'd like to start with you because we're on the onset of a really important strategic alliance between PsyPotential and PATS. So maybe you can tell us something about that.
Yes. So basically, PATS Clinics is a psychology clinic with 2 locations. And currently, we make up the largest team of psychologists, psychotherapists, and counselors on the island. So at the moment, we have 45 therapists, and we see people of different ages, starting from the age of 3 onwards. We see children, adolescents, adults, couples, families, and we also work in organizations.
And even the services that you offer are quite varied, right?
Yes. So we offer different services and we carry out seminars, workshops, team building events. But our focus and the heart of the clinic is psychotherapy and well-being initiatives.
Which is actually what brought us together, because as PsyPotential, we also offer corporate wellness programs. And we thought that perhaps this is something that can bring us together to offer something stronger. Joshua, you're the heart and soul of corporate wellness, right? So also as a psychologist, obviously, but maybe you can tell us something about this partnership that we have.
We saw it as a great opportunity. We wanted to strengthen what we already offer in the corporate wellness area. And despite offering different services, we saw them as complementary to each other, where, things like psychotherapy and assessment and seminars and such, along with what PsyPotential offers as well when it comes to workshops and psychometrics and leadership development, yes, and coaching. We thought if we can join these together, well, that can be great, and it can be something great to offer our clients as well.
Okay, so let's jump into the topic, because today we're going to discuss something that's really critical. I think since COVID, there has been such an increase in awareness and focus, and people are talking a lot about mental health. And I think because of what COVID did to us, it gave it an accelerated kind of boost. At the same time, our discussion today is going to focus more on how the workplace affects mental health, because again, we have become more aware of that. I think even the fact that people were working from home, it gave them chance to think more about what the workplace feels like, because they could compare working from home and working at work. So I think it's really changed the landscape. I'm not going to ask anyone in particular, so just feel free to jump in. But let's start with what you're seeing at the moment when it comes to mental health issues and the workplace. So,
I would say one of the most common things that we're seeing in the workplace is burnout, sort of anxiety, chronic stress. I think also maybe this part isn't spoken enough about, because you mentioned COVID a lot. A lot of workplaces have created hybrid systems where
Yes.
they work sometimes from home, sometimes from the office, or maybe totally from home now. And I think there's a part there which is slowly being mentioned, but is the loneliness part as well, where people are sort of isolated in a way at home without those direct colleagues around them, so they're home alone with a laptop in front of a monitor, for example, and loneliness is being felt there.
Yeah, I think I experience it as well. This, feeling maybe not as connected. But I also feel that because of the fast pace of life and because of, the increasing demands of life and also of work, I think people also feel that they get a bit of like a break. There's less stimulation at home.
Yep.
So they kind of also seek it working from home. So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yes, there are mixed reviews about this.
Yes, but when it comes to mental health and work in particular, in the last year, we've seen an increase in the number of people who come to the clinic. So in terms of self-referrals,
Yes.
seeking support for work stress, for burnout, for anxiety. So things have shifted. We're not sure exactly why, but we've seen definitely an increase in
I think
contact.
things have, on the anxiety front, I think things have accelerated as well there, especially because the fast-paced changes that technology is making, and our poor brains trying to keep up with all of these changes at the same time, and needing the time so our brains need the time to adapt there, but changes are so constant, so fast-paced, and we're almost expected to be turned on at all times.
Yes.
Answer emails at all times. Get if someone sends you an email, almost there's an expectation that you're gonna get a reply within minutes, within seconds, if possible.
Also, I think the geopolitical climate is also affecting people. Sort of that looming worry of, that brings instability. What's going to happen? Not only with work but also with life in general. So I think this affects people. And
So in a way, it's like every few years something happens. Because I remember way back in 2008, we had the economic crisis, and it had affected people's mental health quite badly. We had COVID, which was quite bad for most people, at least. And as you said, now there's the war going on, and it makes people feel anxious as well. So it's a good point, actually. So it's not just work, although today we're focusing more on work, but it's the whole environment that tends to make us more anxious, especially because we have more exposure to the news and to different sources of news.
Yes.
So actually, this brings me to an important aspect, because we said that we're going to focus on work. And one thing that really determines what happens at work is the leaders and the managers, right? So we tend to set the tone. And I'm going to read a part from a very large study. It was like they interviewed thousands of people, and I'm going to read it, and then we can discuss. So basically, the conclusion was that leaders have an outsized impact on mental health. New data suggests that for almost 70% of people, so it's quite a lot, their manager has more impact on their mental health than their therapist or their doctor. And, wait for it, it's equal to the impact of their partner.
yeah.
Okay? So, if you're a leader, you're right to find this data sobering. So, I don't know. Do you see this in your clinic? Do you see the impact that leaders have?
Yes, I see it. So I have two roles. I'm a psychologist, and I see my clients in private practice, and then I also lead the team at the clinic. And I'm very aware of the impact that my role as a leader has on the team, and I find that role actually much more challenging than my clinical practice, basically because there are so many dynamics that you need to keep in mind, and it it's about how I carry myself, what I say, do I follow through with it? So sort of there are a lot of things involved in being a leader that you really need to keep in mind. I think it makes sense that leaders have a lot of impact, basically because as most people spend
So much time.
so much
That's
time at
it.
work.
Yes.
I think very few people will spend 8 hours of their day with their partner. And I think creating a space of psychological safety is extremely important. And you can sense it even when I go then into organizations. I can almost, from the moment that I enter into the office, I can tell if people feel comfortable to communicate, if they feel engaged in their work. It's you can really feel it. Or on the opposite, if you sense this fear,
The fear.
or the sort of the vague communication. I tend to pick this up quite a bit. I don't know, Joshua, if you feel it.
Can we open this up a bit, because we're hearing a lot of talk about psychological safety. Sometimes it's misinterpreted as treating people with kids' gloves, which it's not. I don't know. Maybe you can.
I think another simple misinterpretation is that you treat people with kindness. So people can easily mix up kindness for psychological safety. Did you want to hit us with a definition of psychological safety, and we'll take it from there?
There's Amy Emerson who talks about it, and I don't think there's a specific definition, but it's definitely about a place where people feel free to speak up, where they're not afraid of being punished for mistakes that are genuine, that come from like a genuine effort to take initiative, where responsibility is shared. So I think it's that kind of environment. The most important one is that typically the more psychological safety you have, the easier and safer it is to give feedback.
Yeah.
So and we talk a lot about that, So
and this is so going back to originally what you asked and what Charlene was answering. Leaders and managers set the tone for this very, very often. It's them that set the tone on, I don't know, how fair they are with the different people, and at the place of work, and that's going to set the tone for psychological safety. How they treat people if they make a mistake. How they treat people if they, I don't know, do something that needs some form of disciplinary action. Is that ignored? Are people shouted at? Are they spoken to individually? Are they made to feel ashamed or ridiculed in front of everyone else? So I think this very much sets the tone of what a manager and leader sort of orchestrates the psychological safety at the workplace.
Yes.
So I think what we're saying here is that a psychologically safe environment doesn't mean that we don't challenge people, that we don't confront them if necessary, and we don't urge them to grow and perform better, etc., etc. Especially to the feedback. It actually supports that.
Because people aren't afraid to speak, and so there's feedback giving, and you're okay with failing, and then sort of changing situations, as opposed to best not say that because of the repercussions that might happen. And so actually it improves that, I think.
Now, if I had to take the role of the people, they often say, yes, it's very easy for managers and leaders to give us feedback, but they rarely listen to the feedback that we give them. What's your general experience of this? Is it in our mentality to receive feedback from employees, take it seriously, and when we do, if we do, how does it affect mental health in general? So it's not an easy question.
Like with this, I'm a big fan of different people of both sides taking responsibility. So, and again, I think of how I used to run the clinic and how I run the clinic now.
Okay.
So it's sometimes, and again, when I'm in company, sometimes I find that what companies are doing is asking for feedback from employees on what they can do better. And then it's just this channel of, I ask for more of this or ask for less of this. And that tends to create a cycle where it's like HR or, business owners are constantly just sit there meeting demands. Whereas I think it's a lot about the shared responsibility. So this is the situation, from the business point of view, this is the situation. This is what we're working with right now. Maybe we can't find enough employees in for this particular team. Maybe, the market is going in this direction.
Yes.
This is where we are. How can we make this the best situation possible in this particular context? And I think that puts people in the picture. And then they can sort of give valuable solutions and also take responsibility where it's not just me asking and you giving. And I find when I've done this at the clinic, I usually find that everyone comes up with much better solutions. So I think
It's more
the
engaging too.
responsibility. Yes, is important.
And probably it's particularly important with the younger generation. I'm not saying it's important for us, well, even for me, a bit older in generation. But I think young people really expect this. They no longer respect authority just because it's the authority. They expect to have access to give feedback, contribute their ideas, and that their ideas are taken seriously. So it's something.
I'm thinking of what Dan Pink says about motivation theory, where three key ingredients are autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yes. Yes.
So if you can even offer that in this, where people feel like they are contributing and they believe that they're contributing very much in the way you put it, Charlene, it's great where it's a collaboration there. And something you mentioned, which is really good, is what you can do rather than what you shouldn't do. So that gives a more proactive attitude to it. And the mastery part there would be that you have the autonomy to give feedback, to suggest things. Hopefully your manager takes that on and it's done in collaboration. And if your leader or your manager is open to it, then there can be learning on both sides there, which would lead to mastery, and I guess also a sense of purpose in what you're doing. So why are we doing this? Why is this feedback important ultimately, and how can we make these changes? So there, I think sometimes, and I don't want to generalize and don't want to call anyone out when it comes to leadership, but there is a lot to learn from the people you are leading as well.
Yes.
And if as a leader you're open to that, then it can be a beautiful experience of learning together rather than sort of ordering, teaching, bossing around, being an authority figure.
I think a lot of the times leaders don't sort of boss or manage because they want to control. I think usually it's the task-focused element.
Yes.
So I need to deliver on this. And then it's sometimes the deadline was yesterday, sort of there's not enough time. So it's almost like we want to get feedback, but there's no time. We have to do this. This has been decided. And sort of then it's a bit of a rush. Whereas I think if there's enough strategy planning and sort of we take the time, I think if people give their feedback from the start, it's automatically that they're going to feel engaged, they are going to work harder, just because it's also their idea and they wanted to succeed. So I think, and the feedback is genuine. It's like, it's not just like them feeling, but them actually being part of the process. And so, yeah.
And to link to this and the original question, communication. So sometimes when people give feedback, possibly that idea is not taken up, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and it's fine. It's but not receiving feedback from your manager or leader leaves people sort of in a state where they have to fill in the gaps themselves.
Yes.
And unfortunately, and research shows this, it's not usually a positive fill in the gaps.
Yes.
It's usually, okay, I've given this feedback. I didn't hear anything. It wasn't taken on. Nothing has changed. So I don't know. I shouldn't come up with ideas because I have stupid ideas, for example. And that would be filling in the gaps negatively.
Yes.
Which if the leader went just that step further with communication and said, it's a great idea, for example, but
we can't do it
do
this
it at
year.
the moment. We can't do it this year. It's a financial thing. It's a practical thing. There was a better idea, for example. At least the person has received feedback on their feedback. On theirs.
So they feel validated.
Yes.
Exactly. In fact, we have this saying, I think we came up with it actually as PsyPotential. When we give training, we tell them, in the absence of communication, imagination takes over. So, and I think it's really powerful. And very often when we say that, you see a lot of nodding because people start wondering, okay, why wasn't my email answered? Maybe they didn't like it. Maybe there's something that I don't know. Maybe there's some bad news, especially when it's a Friday and you don't get a reply and you spend the weekend wondering what's going on. Which brings me to a related topic. Related because when there is autonomy, especially, and there is mastery and purpose, it tends to buffer against, and I'm going to call it the B word, which is burnout, right? So the big word, which up to some time ago wasn't mentioned. The concept started in the helping professions, in nursing, actually. That's where the concept of burnout started. But now we're talking a lot about it in organizations, in work. Many people complain about burnout, and sometimes it's understood, sometimes it's misunderstood. I'm going to take it from the very top, and then maybe we can discuss who's responsible, what can we do about it, how can we prevent it, okay? So I don't know when, but the World Health Organization recognized burnout as a syndrome. Okay, not a medical syndrome, but a syndrome. And it's an occupational phenomena. I'm going to read, okay, so that I get it right. So according to the World Health Organization, burnout is a syndrome. So it's a number of things. Why am I telling you? You know this. I'm telling it for the audience, mostly. Conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So, unmanaged stress. It's characterized by 3 dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, reduced professional efficacy. And then they add, burnout refers specifically to phenomena in the occupational context and should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life, which is interesting. So, in a way, to qualify as burnout, the cause has to be work. Yep. Discuss. Maybe I don't know where to start, but let's tap into our experience at least and see what we see and what we've been observing in this area.
I think nowadays burnout is really, it's spoken about a lot. Like even when we go into different organizations, people are very aware, this person burnt out. We lost this employee because, he felt too burnt out. And I think that people do struggle, but I think also sometimes the term is overused. So I think it's used when the individual isn't actually burnt out, but there are other causes. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's fatigue, or maybe it's sort of someone feeling overwhelmed. But yes, burnout is definitely
because burnout is it's like when it's called burnout, it would have gone in quite deep kind of. It's a more advanced stage of exhaustion.
Yes, it usually happens after a number of months of people feeling stressed, chronically stressed, and things not getting better. So, and usually we say that when people reach burnout, the the treatment to that is almost a complete change of lifestyle, change of structure, change of boundaries, so it doesn't really, it's not something that's light. When people are burnt out, it feels very different.
We have a graph. We use it in our workshops to explain stress, and basically it gets worse. So the more you go down this graph, it gets worse, and it starts at the top with things like stress, fatigue, exhaustion, but this keeps on progressing, and like the second last one is burnout. So it's there, and then the last one is depression. So it can lead then to,
because then, and this is where mental health really comes into it, because then it can actually morph into clinical depression.
Yes.
If not treated.
Yes. So I'm just backing totally what you're saying, that sometimes it's misused, like, I don't know, two days that were rough, and I'm so burnt out. When the proper burnout, if you take the definition,
it's debilitating,
Patrick has,
actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
I often, in fact, you're reminding me of this, because I often have people even in my clinic, they tell me, well, they will be burnt out. So when you ask certain questions, you notice that, yes, they are now in a state of burnout, not very functional, like even going to work is a huge effort. But what's interesting is that they say, I don't know how this happened, because last week I was fine. And that's puzzling to me, because as you said, the burnout doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you wake up with a cold.
Exactly.
Right? Or with fever, it grows on you. And then I start saying, so when you say you are fine, how many hours were you working, for example? And they tell me, oh no, 12 hours a day was normal. Okay. And what about exercise? Were you doing any exercise? No, as if I have no time for exercise. And what about going out and meeting friends and time with the family? No. Basically, I go home, I'm exhausted, I sit in front of the TV, boom, and that's it. And I tell them,
mention sleep for me. You know how much I love
sleep,
it.
Sleep. Joshua's our sleep ambassador, the master of sleep. So go to sleep during the podcast.
I'm awake.
Yes, but thank you for reminding, because even that, like, how are you sleeping? Well, I fall asleep in front of TV, but then I have difficulty at night. I wake up 4 times during the night, and
I'm not rested.
And I tell them, and sometimes I don't mean to be cheeky, but I tell them, so you call that okay? Like, I thought, and what comes out of it is you weren't okay, but you were coping. You were coping to the point where you kept the work front going, but it doesn't mean that you were okay. So I think this is something that is often misunderstood in terms of how burnout doesn't happen. It's not something that happens just like that,
There's also, because I'm giving leaders a bit of a bad rap here, but I think when it comes to the organization as well, and this might be why sort of the definition is specific to the workplace as well, because I think there is a systemic, I think a systemic root to it, where people do have, like, individual, they might be going, someone might be going through a divorce, another person might be having difficulties with their children, some might be, going through their own personal issues.
And that contributes.
On a personal level. So going into work during that particular period is already heavy within itself. But if you take the system and how it contributes there, one thing that came to mind when you were speaking, if the culture is that you're paid for a 40-hour week, but you're expected to work 12 hours, and when you go home, you're expected to check your emails and reply to your emails, for example. So there, the culture within itself, there, it's sort of overworking is the norm there. So people there might feel, and they might feel that they're just, or they might rather than feel, they might believe. They might believe, I'm just doing my job like everyone else.
It's the norm.
It's
sort
the
of
norm.
thing.
That's what's expected of us. but then I'm burnt out all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
I think it's like a buildup of pressures. So I think definitely if there's a culture where it's expected for you to do more, and let's say there's no recovery period or there's no downtime, because I find, and I don't know if you find it as well, but I think the people who feel not overworked and the healthiest tend to be the ones who have work that varies according to the seasons. So they're not like constantly
Yeah.
go, go,
So
go,
it
go, go, go.
fluctuates.
It fluctuates. There's a time where they're really busy and then there's a time. So I think this is a go and then also pause helps a lot. So if the culture is like this, it's constant, having to deal with the next project and the next project. I think it's exhausting. I also think that people who burn out are usually the ones who are very hard workers,
Yes.
perfectionists.
Yes.
They're the ones who, and I think this is how it creeps up on you, because I think initially it's like you do the work and then you get more work. And so you just stay longer at work, or you go in earlier and you keep doing more and more and more. And insofar as you manage, you think like things are fine.
I'm managing. Yes,
I'm
yes,
managing. And then you start getting stressed. You say it's okay. Maybe it was just a rough week, or maybe I have a holiday coming up. And so it's not such an issue. And then what happens is there are times where the work catches up and you start feeling like you're not managing, like you're not being effective. And
slowly overwhelmed.
And then there's the overwhelm, and then the feeling is I'm not capable, I can't function in the way that I used to. So it becomes then this dread of actually work makes me now feel, whereas it before it used to define my identity and how hardworking I am and how good I am. Now it's actually the place where I don't feel effective, where I don't feel good enough. And that, I think, the psychological also, the loss of that identity of being effective is really tough on people.
really
And I think
important.
really
That's
leads
really
to
important.
burnout.
I've had, in fact, I think part of what we do is to help people look out for red flags. So for example, recently someone told me the only time they feel relaxed during the weekend is if they're working.
Wow.
And I said, how come? He said, because if I'm working, I know that the workload is decreasing. I'm eating away at the overwhelm.
Wow.
But at the same time, so that's the only time when they feel. So if they're not working, so if they're relaxing, they're worrying
They're
about
thinking about work.
the workload.
Again, the constantly
And
switched on
so
thing that
they're
you're
not
saying.
burnt out at that point, but
Yeah.
definitely it's a red flag, because if you can't even relax because all you can think of is work, and the only thing that calms you down is work. So, Shard, I want to ask you this because it brings me to a very important point in terms of what. I think I'll ask you about what we can do to recover, and I'll ask you about what can leaders do to prevent it from happening. So you can think about it while I ask Charlene. No, because as psychologists, we're often accused of listening and that's it. We don't do anything else. If we have someone who's burnt out, like how would one approach it? How would someone approach helping someone recover from burnout?
When I have someone who's burnt out in front of me, they're usually clients who are very difficult to convince. It's very difficult to convince them to slow down. So usually their identity is very much tied with their role, whether it is at home or at work. And they tend to feel indispensable.
Okay.
So they come to you, they're saying, listen, clearly something's not going right. I can't cope, but I can slow down. And so I think a lot of the sessions focus on, really, unwrapping that a little bit and coming to understand, okay, so tell me, how do you spend your week? What do you do at work? How much of what you do at work is urgent, has to be done immediately, and how much of it isn't urgent. And usually then we start talking about, it's like the focus is different. It's not like, give me a solution quick because I need to get back to work. And then usually I say, if you do want recovery that is as in longer
solid recovery
solid
and- yeah.
recovery, then you really need to change your lifestyle completely.
Which is what you said before.
Which
Because
is what I said.
you struck me when you said that, because it often requires a change in lifestyle.
And a complete changes, because once you arrive at that point, your body and your mind is telling you, listen, I can't fast. There's a sense of dread.
Wow.
So it's about fitting in times when you're going to be moving your body, when you're going to be, doing things for your well-being, and also changing your perspective on what is needed, is required
Yes,
at work,
yes.
and maybe what you're doing that is getting you into a state where you're constantly, overwhelmed and overworked, because it can't always be firefighting, stressful, and where you're always overstretched. So a lot of the amount of time is spent convincing people that they actually need to slow down and rest.
I know you want to say something like, hold on, let's. I was going to ask you, Shar, is it ever the case that a person needs a clean break for 2-3 weeks where they can kind of because some people say there's actually research that shows that it's better not to stop completely, because that can make you feel even more hopeless, because you say, okay, now I can't even cope with that. But at the
Yes.
same time, if you want to recover, you need to do something radical.
Yes.
Is it ever the case where we suggest that you take a clean break for some time?
Yes, sometimes I think it's a matter of months, not just
Wow,
weeks.
okay.
So I think it depends on when people seek help. If they come sooner, if it's just
enough.
a few
Yeah.
tough months and now they need to get back on track, then usually we can just implement some small changes. And then the person starts feeling better almost immediately, especially if they speak to the workplace and they support them with maybe some amendments to their workload.
Yes.
But a lot of the times when people come, when they're experiencing such a deep sense of dread, they come into work, they can't bear, sort of facing people there, then usually it's a matter of either changing the job or really stopping for a few months just to rest and recover. And sometimes they change the field
They
that
take
they're
a
working
radical
as well.
decision.
So it's a pity, because one of my main one of the things that I say to people who are usually burnt out, because they're usually very good at what they do. This is why they're actually. So I say it's a pity, that we lose someone like you from this particular field just because we can't, sort of rest and recover. So actually, resting and recover will allow you to stay longer in a career that you love and that you're good at, as opposed to say, listen, I can't deal with that anymore. I need a clean break. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I was going to say something else, but I want to bring Joshua in now.
Yes.
So
I've been holding on to it.
otherwise, he's going to be angry. at
Burst.
us.
No. All I want to say was, it's lovely hearing you speak, because I'm hearing this almost as a quotation from people I've worked with who have experienced burnout, where they say that they're so deep into it. They know there's a problem. They know that they are burnt out. They're so deep in that they can't see a way out in any way or form. And the way you put it was that you offer support in that way. And at that point, someone who's going through burnout, if you can actually push them or hint a sort of direction, a way out, sort of like, I'm picturing someone stuck deep down in a well and they can't see a way out at all. But you're guiding them from above and telling them, if you touch the wall to your right, there's a ladder on the wall. You won't be able to see it, but you can feel it, and there is a way out.
Yes.
So it also highlights how crucial support is on all different levels.
And usually I think all it takes is the work tasks being split, or sort of reducing the expectations. Let's say if I have to do 10 tasks for an amount of time until I start feeling better, that becomes 4 tasks, and then we can split them up together and we can have a conversation about how to. I think that's all people need.
A bit of reorganization of your life and like prioritization, revisiting.
Work tasks being simplified, expectations being lowered just for a period of time, and then understanding what led to that to begin with, so that we don't do it again, and avoid it. But yes, support is extremely important, and ideally early on, so it doesn't get
Yeah.
to the point where people feel like they have to leave their work.
And on that note, and to answer I don't know if you were gonna come
No,
with
no, no.
another
Go
question,
ahead.
but
Go ahead. No.
but
It's really interesting.
because there's a sort of a famous phrase used by many leaders that they have an open door policy,
Oh, yes.
which it's good to have. Good to have an open door policy. But what's just been highlighted here is that sometimes a leader needs to go beyond the open door policy. I would say, if I had to put it like a policy to use it that way, I would say a check-in policy. Because if you see someone who is going through a rough time, someone who is already starting to show certain signs of burnout, or even if it's anxiety, fatigue, etc., they might not come to your open door.
Yes.
It's good to have, like I said, good to have an open door, but they might not come. You might need to go yourself
Exactly.
as a leader and check in, you know?
Yes.
Even if it's something you've noticed.
Exactly.
I've realized you're coming in late. Is everything okay? And just have that check-in
Yes.
there, which can make all the difference. And it ties into
Yes,
everything
yes,
you
yes.
said about support there.
Yes, I think it's really important. In fact, I spend an amount at the beginning of my week because, again, against people in the helping professions, as you said, sort of are really at risk of developing burnout because we're constantly
than
giving.
others. Exactly.
And particularly with my team, you know, therapy is it's all about giving people and taking, you know, sort of a lot of responsibility. So sometimes, like, if I see people in the kitchen or in the corridor and I see them looking particularly tired, like I do reach out and check it. And I spend, I think, the beginning of my week just thinking about where the team is right now. And if there's someone I feel is, you know, I can see isn't in a good place, then I do try to reach out and say, listen, hey, is everything okay? What are your hours looking like? You know, do you want to make maybe any changes? It's not always possible to do something. And
But
sometimes
it's,
people don't want to sort of share, which is fine, but
it's very
at
effective.
least.
And in fact, this is when because as part of the partnership includes training leaders and managers to be mindful and aware of these things. And in fact, the program we have, which is called Lead for Wellness, it's actually part of it is what you're saying, that you care, first of all, but you also look out for sometimes minor changes. Maybe someone who's usually joking around and quite jolly is suddenly, you know, looks really unhappy, and it's happening not just once, but a number of times. My big question is also, but who is going to take care of the leaders? Because I like to say, even as a business owner, it's like it can get very lonely at the top. You know, it's like you need to take care of the others. You need to make sure that everything's going well, that they're happy, that the business is thriving, that the clients are happy. And sometimes I say, and who's going to take care of the leaders? And leaders tend to burn out a lot also. So, you know, so I don't know. I'm thinking, you know, having mentors, but maybe you can open up a bit about this. And
I'm thinking of, so let me put mentors on the side for a moment, but it's there. It's there. It's very much there. I'm thinking also. So like I agree. You know, the higher you go up, the lonelier it can get. But you can sort of receive support from your own team, and a simple way is something we mentioned earlier when it comes to feedback. You know, you can do that collaboratively, and you're learning and growing with your team at the same time. It doesn't mean that you're directly telling them, I'm going through a tough time. So you might wish to keep that boundary, and you're not doing that with your direct team, but you're getting support in other ways. You can also do it, I guess, on the same level, so horizontally. So if you're the leader of a department, there might be different forums or opportunities where you can speak with people from leaders of other departments. And I've noticed that when this is suggested and people actually do it, they find a lot of commonalities
Yes.
and no
And
longer
relief.
feel as lonely as they were.
gets less
they were-
lonely.
Yes,
Yes,
True.
yes. Even if the departments have nothing to do with each other, or slightly have things to do with each
Yeah.
other. Going upwards, I there's there's a famous Bob Dylan song.
Okay.
So everybody has to serve somebody in a way. So I guess
Yes.
even if you're at the top, someone's on top of you in that sort of a sense. So hopefully you can find that support as well. But then that's where I would add also the
The
mentor
mentors.
part. Yes.
Yes.
And it could also be just to mention this could also be, I don't know, if you're the CEO of a company speaking to the CEO of another
Of
company,
another
Yeah.
company. Yeah. True.
and you know, connecting that way.
Yes,
You were
yes,
gonna
yes. Yes, I think the mentors, having mentors, and again, it may be a mentor for relationships, personal relationships, a mentor for, how you can manage people. Because I think different people are good at different things. So let's say someone who might be good at, let's say, business development, and they can mentor, which ultimately sort of getting guidance also relieves a lot of pressure and having to solve it. So, but also sort of when it comes to personal life and personal problems, having mentors in different areas, I think and I think what helps is, I don't know, I like to say that if I'm not healthy and if I'm not in a good place, then it's going to come across immediately. I'm going to be projecting, I'm going to be, let's say, reading things in the wrong way. So I put a lot of energy and effort into making sure I move during the week, like do some physical exercise and do things that I know will leave me in a
So
good
the
place psychologically.
self-care aspect.
Yes, so that then when I do come to, make decisions or speak to people on my team, then it's coming from a calm place. And yes. So I think that's
So
really
this
important.
taps a lot into a more contemporary view of leadership, where we're moving away from that macho culture where you have to be always stoic and show sort of external strength, and it's okay to have managed vulnerability. As you said, it doesn't mean that there are no boundaries, but it's okay to show that you're human and that you need support. And I think leaders really need to hear this, because sometimes there's so much pressure on having to seem that you always have all the answers.
Yeah.
You always have it together. Always know what you're doing.
Yes.
And yes,
And human beings can read, as in people will
Yes,
tell if you're being
absolutely.
authentic or not. So I think if there's a lot of effort put into masking,
Yeah.
it just leads to less trust, as opposed to this feeling, oh, okay, this person knows what they're doing. So I think if you can be authentic, then you will build genuine relationships, really.
And a big part of that, I'm gonna add the S word, the sorry.
Ah.
Yeah.
A big part of that is learning how to say sorry.
Sorry, I messed up.
Sorry, I messed up. It doesn't mean that this is overused, because that then can diminish your power there and then your leadership power there. But if you have made a mistake and you do want to show your human side, apologizing can go
Yes.
a real long way, with people.
Yes.
Um,
And pointing out areas of growth. Like, listen, this is not my strong point. I need some support with this. And that, I think, then allows people to also say, hey, I need a bit of help with this, as opposed to trying to look like I have all the answers and I can manage, different.
So we're going back to the idea of the shared leadership and the, not so much of a top-down mentality as well, even related to burnout.
I'm just going to backtrack a bit.
Okay.
Because I mentioned before the open door policy, and then that leads to the check-in policy. I would like to add as well, if possible, if there are solutions that can be offered, I think that can go a long way as well. But leaving the door open to it. So if someone, for example, comes up to you as a leader, or you've checked in with them. So let's say they've ignored the open door policy and you've checked in with them and you realize they're not okay. And a part of it is their workload. If you can offer in any way or form to relieve them from a part of their workload, or collaborate together
Yes.
as a team and pool in together to help each other out. But I think also they're leaving the autonomy that the person can choose themselves
Yes.
if they want this
Or
not.
not. Yes.
So that could be an extra add-on there
Add-on.
to it.
I think with this, something that we found really effective is creating layers of support. So it's like you have the open door, you have the manager that you can, come to if you need anything. But usually there are, I call them connectors, like Malcolm Gladwell's connectors, these people who are really very, very good with people.
Yes.
And they tend to be the ones that people come to with, whatever's going on. And I find that if you if you train or if you support the connectors and people have the choice of not just going to the leader or the manager who might be overworked or, dealing with a lot of things, and actually, because usually we do training the leaders, but the leaders often have the least amount of time for people to come in. And so usually supporting these connectors means that people have a choice. And we will sometimes work with companies that I like that they have connectors at different levels of seniority. So someone who's a junior might prefer to go to another junior as opposed to, someone in a senior position, and they feel comfortable to, and then that person can pass the words to see how we can sort of create. So the layers of support, I think with
And
this
like that,
is,
you ensure the reach, because you know
Yes.
that you're going to reach like
yes.
practically everyone.
And with what we're doing also with the collaboration is enough newsletter. So
Yes,
again,
yes.
something in your inbox, and then the therapy. So sort of again, we're there with our the training and the workshops. So all of these things sort of contribute to people being able to reach out to who they want to, when they want to, and with how they feel comfortable. I think.
I'm aware I mentioned
really interesting.
offering a solution. I would say get there, but start with curiosity, start with care.
Yes.
And let that guide you before you go into a solution.
Yes.
Because if you just go straight into a solution,
With the with
that-
the answer
with
sort of
the
thing, you
answer
don't
straight
know
away,
actually what your people need.
Yes.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Now, I'm going to flip this on its head, and like my role here is to be a bit controversial. So, no, because like this is really interesting. I think it's really relevant, and people like I hope that our listeners are able to get a better understanding of what we're talking about when we say, how leaders set the tone, how burnout affects us, how mental health, how much it's affected because of the work that we do. Now, on the other side, there's also a very strong trend at the moment. It's a bit like a revolt of the elder people who are saying that the younger generation are, and if I hear this word again, I'm going to because they keep the word snowflakes, right? That they can't take any kind of stress. That the moment you put some pressure on them, they crumble. They're entitled. They expect to become managers overnight, and then they don't know what to do. And I'm going to also link this to something which is now it's actually being given a term, which is concept creep, which is when words like, you can help me here, but we mentioned burnout, toxic workplace, trauma,
Safe.
unsafe culture, anxiety,
Gas-
ADHD, gaslighting.
Gaslighting.
So these are words that up to 10 years ago, at least in Malta, weren't really in our everyday discourse. Now they are, because there's a lot of awareness. Now, the problem is that, and I need to ask to get your views about this. Is there a tendency, or do you see a tendency sometimes that, before Joshua mentioned it actually, if I've had a tough week and I'm really tired, I say, I'm really burnt
Yes.
out, right? Or if I'm a bit restless and cannot concentrate, like I have ADHD. And even worse, some people say, I'm really OCD about this, which makes me a bit angry, because it's a bit of a disservice to the people who
actually have
genuinely
OCD.
have those conditions. Do you see this? Do you see a bit of,
Yes. I want to make a point about
Yes, yes.
the Gen Z, the snowflake thing. I kind of feel like this generation has stronger boundaries in the sense that they know what they will accept and they know what's not acceptable. And whereas perhaps my generation, millennials would say, listen, push through because you don't want to appear XYZ.
Yes, yes.
They feel comfortable saying it. At the same time, maybe have higher expectations because potentially they did see a world that changed much quicker than
Yes.
it changed in our time. So potentially, but I think sometimes because when I reflect on my psychology assistants, they are so hardworking. They hold so much, and I think the younger generations also. I can feel the frustration from both ends, but I
Yes,
think the
yes.
younger generation are also feeling the tired of being told that they're not doing enough. Because I just think that they know what they absolutely won't accept, like what their non-negotiables are. But to go into what you mentioned with the
The
concept tree,
concept creep.
yes, I think we see it a lot. It's like even when it comes to, let's say, at the clinic, when it comes to relationships, a lot of mention of narcissistic.
Oh yes, I forgot that. That's a good one.
Yes. So again, it's great that people
Yes.
are more aware.
Yes,
But
yes.
I think what happens is it's like, how when you open a book, especially if it's a medical book,
Yes,
and you
yes,
read the
yes.
symptoms, you kind of feel like you have all of the symptoms. I think that's happening also with psychology
Yes.
and with certain situations at the workplace. Probably you see it as
It can there is the danger of it becoming a bit ridiculous. Like someone, he had all the biscuits in the kitchen. He's such a narcissist, I mean, okay, maybe he's just,
has an eating
a
disorder.
bit greedy or selfish or, but,
Yes.
but let's be careful how to apply these. You're
I was just going to
comment
say
on this.
that maybe the upside of it is that certain words are now known.
Yes.
So
yes.
I guess if you haven't heard of ADHD, for example, but you're now thinking you might have ADHD, so that's sort of brought to your knowledge, and so I would say that's the positive. But then on the negative side, they can be overused, overgeneralized, exhausted too much, and could possibly also contribute to this sort of mentality of a snowflake culture.
course.
Because
Yes.
there's the overuse of today I'm anxious, then tomorrow I'm depressed,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
to the next day I have OCD.
And also I'm thinking to the environment, to the culture of the workspace, because if you're constantly hearing I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, I'm fatigued, then it kind of sort of does affect the mood at the workplace.
Yeah.
Whereas sort of when we don't always mention this, then people sort of get on with things, I find.
In fact, another word that I hear a lot is that triggered. I'm triggered.
I'm triggered.
I'm
Yes.
triggered.
Trigger warnings. Yes.
My anxiety is triggered, or you triggered my anxiety. So I think, and again, for our listeners' sake, I think it's an important distinction. So leaders need to challenge their team. They need to drive them. They need to bring results, because after all, if it's a business, it needs to be profitable and make money. What we're saying is they can do it in a way that respects people's mental health, that where they look out for people's mental health. So it doesn't mean that they never challenge. It doesn't mean that they never give any negative feedback. But also, and I'm going to introduce the other side of it, the development of grit and resilience. In fact, this is something that we do a lot of in terms of even our programs. Then our corporate wellness program, of the things that we do together is that we train people and help people develop a higher level of grit and resilience. Because let's face it, you might disagree with this, but I think pressure and stress in our work is a given. I'm not saying
It
that
can actually be really good for you. It puts you, in a place where you're actually learning and growing and developing in your career. So it's helpful.
So maybe on the other side, there's the opportunity for people to develop more grit, which is the determination and the perseverance in the face of adversity or in the face of a challenge, and resilience, which is bouncing back. And before we were talking about bouncing back from burnout, in fact. So part of it is building this resilience to be able to bounce back from it quickly. So, yeah, you're going to...
I was just gonna say, if uh, you know how much, and also how much I love the topic of resilience and
Yeah.
how
Yeah, no, it's not just sleep. He likes to talk
Sleep
about-
and resilience.
He also likes to talk about resilience.
but people can always improve themselves.
Yes.
And resilience is not a quality that you either have or don't and cannot be developed, or you're born with it or not. It's something that can be developed, and this can be done on a continuous basis
Yeah.
in different levels, in different areas of your life, which can help you, I guess, pre-setbacks and during setbacks and in life in general. When it comes to burnout, I think resilience development can help a lot there as well.
Yes.
Um,
So it's like, I think we're talking about a bit of a shared responsibility, which is interesting because before we talked about that even from a leadership perspective,
Yes.
that the company, the workplace and the organization, I think we have the responsibility to create atmospheres and cultures that are conducive to good mental health. But at the same time, as employees, we cannot expect everything to come from the employer, and we need to do our bit.
Our bit.
So it is a shared responsibility.
Yeah, like I like to use the metaphor of planning a holiday. So let's say I'm planning a holiday for a group of people, and I have someone who's older and who can't walk that much, and I also have children who might not be able to, again, move around that much and need nap time, let's say, or need, playgrounds to be able. So it's like, as a leader, you need to consider everyone's needs and also sort of everyone's skills and also how they want to spend the holiday. Because if, let's say, I have that group of people, but I'm planning, let's say, a trekking trip in the Alps, then I'm not really being fair.
Exactly.
So again, if I have a team of people that's understaffed, overworked, they're stressed out, if I add another project, continue to, take on new things, then I'm being, I'm not being considerate.
Exactly.
But then if we all agree to go on a trekking trip together in the Alps, then it's about, I've decided to come, what are we doing together? And I'm
Yes.
carrying my weight.
Exactly.
I'm not expecting you to then do all the planning, carry my bag. And I think it's this.
It's that kind of shared responsibility.
Like consideration. So who do I have? But also then once we have done this, then we do carry our weight. And I don't expect sort of someone to just
Yes.
do all the work, and I sit back and have this being given to me. Because especially, and again, I say this to my staff, when you are at work, you're giving a service. So you can't come into work expecting your needs to be met. You're there to give a service.
Yes.
But at the same time, we can do that and also consider, how you work best, what communication is important to you. So I think it's both.
Was going to add to it with when it comes to resilience development. You can do a lot of work, on yourself and on your own, but then there's also the culture within work. So if you're entering, before we use the word psychological safety, psychological safe workplace, the opposite of that would be a psychologically dangerous place to work. If you're doing all the work to build resilience in your own time and making sure you're taking care of all the different areas in your life, but then you're going to a work environment where you're spending a large portion of your day, probably the best hours of your day, where it is psychologically dangerous there.
Yes.
And maybe where the leaders or the culture there is not letting you be yourself, and there is shouting, shaming, etc. you can do sort of all the resilience development
Yes, but
in the
it's-
world, but then going sort of
Going back into it.
back
is
into
going
it,
to,
yes, at all times. So there, I think
Yeah.
they need to be complementary. I would say the resilience development, and like we offer this, or both our companies offer this, and organizations take this on. But then also the culture, also there also needs to be a shift in culture and change there, that workloads are realistic, boundaries are clear, people know what they're doing, and they're taken care of in that manner.
Yeah.
To complement this resilience development.
So it's a joint effort from both sides.
Yep.
I like going into companies where they're already convinced that well-being is really
It's a
important.
priority.
And then it's very easy to just like nudge the systems.
Yes.
So because they're already doing a lot, where even the fact that they consider it important, that they're speaking about it, that there are already a number of initiatives usually that they're doing, and then we come in with the therapy or with the consultation or with the training, and yes, it's really about tackling the whole system. And again, no company is perfect. Like
No.
ours isn't either. But again, if you're well-meaning and you're always trying to
The
improve,
intention is
if the
genuine.
intention is genuine, then I
yes.
think we can really, really work. Yes.
And in reality, and we have research to back this up, although I don't think it should be the primary reason why we have these programs and why we care for our people, but it actually pays. It actually
does.
makes
What is
business
it?
sense.
One is to
Yes.
4, €1 every €1 in, it
I-
comes up to.
Amazing.
I believe
okay.
I
I don't
read
have
this.
that much detail, but for sure, especially with the younger cohorts, the fact that they feel validated, valued, and cared for, it increases their engagement, it increases their involvement, it increases retention, because they're looking for this kind of thing.
Yes.
So
And people are happy.
You know,
Sometimes I find
and-
people are happy with less money.
yes,
If the environment is good, if they're
conducive.
supportive, if they feel that they're really being considered, and
Yes.
the financial side of it isn't.
I know for certain that there are going to be listeners out there saying that we are nearly being woke here, that that we're being soft and that we're treating people like it's like they're kids and all that. And I think today we've shown, this is how I'm feeling. I don't know about you, but that's it's first of all, woke has its advantages as well. So because it's the movement brought out a certain element of awareness. But I think what we're saying is let's bring about a balance. Let's
I like to think of it, maybe bridging it would be offering compassion,
yes.
but also accountability.
Yes. That's amazing how you put it there. Okay.
Yeah.
Because one doesn't remove the
Fantastic.
other.
Cool,
Yes.
cool.
It's not
Wow. Okay.
someone is saying that they're feeling anxious, and that means okay, that gives you a free pass to get rid of your workload.
Go home.
No,
Yes.
it's offering that compassion and accountability. Something that came to mind as well, that sort of historically, such issues that we are talking about have been underestimated.
Yes.
So in the sense, okay, I know we spoke about creep.
Concept creep.
Concept creep.
Yes.
I was going to say it on the opposite way around.
You're going to call me he was going to call me a creep. Creep with these concepts. Concept creep.
Concept creep. I know we spoke about it, but sort of with that movement as well,
Yes.
things are not being as underestimated as they
Yes,
used
that's
to
true.
be. We need to be careful that they're not overestimated
That's it.
now,
Exactly.
because I guess
It's a bit like a
opposites
pendulum.
are equal in that
Exactly.
sense.
That's first it was
Find
one
our place.
extreme, then it's moved to the other, and we're trying to find a bit of a balance where it can, click and go on like properly, and in that sense.
Yes.
So earlier we spoke about how PsyPotential and POTS are going to partner and collaborate on offering corporate wellness programs. Perhaps you could give a very brief overview of what actually this looks like, because companies often don't even know where to start. Yeah.
Yes, I think, and I think we find it that companies, a lot of companies have really good intentions.
Yes, yes.
And usually they have a well-being budget and they do a number of initiatives, but they have goals, so they know what they would like, the company culture to look like, and how they would like employees to respond. But usually, how to get there feels a little bit vague. So with our expertise and with our tools, we can actually support companies into breaking down the parts into getting well-being
Starting
at
with
the workplace.
policy.
Yes, starting with an assessment of what is
Yes.
mental health policy, well-being ambassadors, creating different levels, different trainings for different levels, and I think, and obviously therapy, because that comes into it.
In fact, Shar, you're reminding me that last time I was counting the number of wellness workshops that together we can offer. And I think they came up about 50 different topics. So, and all related somehow to well-being, and that can be offered to companies, to the staff, for them to, again, to raise the awareness, but also to give the practical skills on how to manage their well-being in their lives. So,
And
yes.
I guess part of this would be also consultation with different parties, maybe people from HR, different leaders within companies. We briefly mentioned well-being policies as well, and that would be helping companies build up a well-being policy.
Yes.
So this sort of reinforces that the well-being culture within an organization, and it's not just I don't know, a 4-hour, 5-hour workshop, and that's it.
And that's
sort
it.
of tick the box,
the
and that's it.
how-to.
It's yes.
Yes.
It's about the how-to and making things practical.
Yep.
And being of help, because again, it's about working with companies who are
Yes.
already,
Yes.
invested in well-being, and then providing them with the psychological tools to do so.
And showing that, it's more than a gym membership and fruit on
Comfortable
Fridays
chair.
and dress down
Yes.
Fridays, and so I think the last thing I wanted to mention also is that I think often the client, once a person comes in contact with us and they need support, okay, if it's a case of therapeutic support, they don't want to wait months to get seen
Exactly.
to. And I think POTS especially offer like quite an efficient response,
Yes.
right? Maybe you can just
Yes, in terms of therapy, we see people within the same week. At most, if it's a specific psychological issue,
Yes.
where we have less therapists who deal with this, then people would need to wait 2 weeks. But our aim basically is to be as accessible as possible. We know that when people do make that call for therapy, for help, that they want to be seen now and not within 3 months' time or 6 months' time. So our aim at Spots is to be as supportive as possible, as accessible as possible. So because we know that when people call for support, they want to be supported now. So we are proud that we have no waiting list. And again, we're constantly doing assessments of availability of therapists. And when we take on a new company, we're always assessing demand just to make sure that we can actually meet the demands of that company,
important.
and that we provide a very good quality service. So again, we have a number of measures in place to make sure that our clients are satisfied with the support that they receive.
Yeah.
It's not just ticking a box. They have someone
That's
to talk
it.
to. It's, dealing with the real psychological issues, and also personal development, professional development, well-being. Yeah.
Very glad. So it's quite comprehensive, and I think by joining forces, we've tapped into each other's strengths
Ecco.
and really reaching out to organizations holistically, like a really A to Z service in terms of safeguarding the well-being of employees.
And we've done our best to explain it, but if people want more information, we can easily be contacted.
Websites,
Yep.
Facebook pages, and all the social media.
Yes. And we're in constant communication with each other as well.
Exactly.
So if we realize that someone is asking for something, but they've asked the other,
Yes,
other
we'll-
company will be
Yes,
in
exactly.
liaison with each other for
Cool.
sure.
Yes.
So first, thank you very much, Joshua, and thank you, Charlene.
Thank you.
We're really looking forward to our ongoing partnership. And again, you said about the values. We're both committed to be a force for good in everything that we do. And I guess I can turn to the listeners here or the viewers. Do follow us on the socials. Talking of partners, we also want to thank Nisja, the producers of this podcast, who made this possible. And we'll be posting the full episodes of these podcasts on YouTube, so we'll appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. This topic is going to grow. Mental health issues are becoming more and more important. The awareness has increased. Today we looked at ways of looking at it from a work perspective. So we've talked about burnout, we've talked about corporate wellness programs, psychological safety, leaders' role in how to handle all this, how to even safeguard the leaders' well-being and mental health. Let's keep the conversation going, let's keep the awareness, and let's keep striving together to make work a better place to live and to lead and to have a good life. As always, stay in good company, and we look forward to the next episode in a month's time. Thank you.